Welcome to the Inbox Podcast with Vincent Sugira. Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome back again to the Inbox Podcast with me, Vincent Sugira. So today I have a very interesting guest. So my guest here is the founder of a circle that maybe some of you have heard, some of you have attended, a circle for which we touched on in my last podcast with Bose, which you should check out. But this is Tsatsi Rugege. She's the founder of Sober Friendly Circle, a safe space and a judgment-free space for people fighting with addiction, people fighting addiction, and it's a space where people get together, they connect, share experiences, and get help from professionals. And now she's not just a founder; she's also an actress, which she's going to share. Because from what I saw, she started it at 5, and I don't know what I was doing when I was 5. So, Tsatsi, welcome to the Inbox Podcast, and thank you so much for your time, for waiting, for just being here. I really appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
So I just talked a little bit about you, but if you were to introduce yourself in your own way, how would you introduce yourself to the people so that they know who we are together with?
No pressure. I describe myself as someone who is passionate about recovery and community, which is the cornerstone of the work that I'm doing with the Sober Friendly Circle, bringing people together to just figure out life and issues and aspirations together. You know, it's so easy to work on yourself in isolation, then you're confronted by the world.
Yeah, now before we get deep into that, because here we talk about mental health and lifestyle. So now let's first start with the lifestyle part of business,
Okay.
The part where you started acting at a very young age. And it's something you continued at University of Cape Town, So how did that start and how is the progress of it?
Hey, you didn't let me avoid, ne? Like, I tried to do this and you said, hey, we're going that direction.
Yeah. You go this, I try to bring you here. Anyways,
Yes, so drama theater has always been a part of my life. Even when I was like in preschool, I used to love to play dress up. We had this big box in my preschool of like hats and shoes and accessories, and while all the other kids were in the sandpit, that's where I was, man. And I was pretending to be every other person on the planet except myself, which sometimes can be a lot of fun. And so from there, I think teachers noticed and they encouraged me to pursue acting. And so I did all through my schooling career, even up to tertiary. And I've done some theater. I've done some great work with Majorika Performing Arts here in Rwanda, which has been really exciting. And yeah.
How long were you in Majorika for? I worked for Majorika. Were you there in 2020? 2020?
I think a little bit before that.
Before that.
Not long, unfortunately. COVID hit us all like a brick.
Yeah.
But the work that I did do with Majorika was really significant to me. Yeah.
Do you remember your first time on stage? From what I read, some of your first stages were the Christmas Eves and stuff like that. So do you remember how it was like your first stage? How you were feeling, how the people were reacting to your performance? Were you nervous? How is it?
The first time, like in the nativity play that I did when I was 5, to be honest, not really. I don't remember it much. But what I will say in general, when I go on stage, when I do anything, even like something like this, it's like I only get nervous right before I'm about to do it.
Just
like
a
the
few minutes
second,
ago.
no, not the minutes, like the second, like the moment now you looked at me and you expected me to speak, that's when I got nervous.
Yeah.
Which is terrible because
I thought this was a friendly environment. I tried to keep it as friendly as possible.
But it's just like, and I find myself, I always get myself into this situation where like I agree to do things, like especially, you know, things that involve speaking or being in public, being observed by a lot of people. Then the moment I'm about to now face the music is when I get nervous. But I think it helps because I'm forced to follow through. I don't have time to back out.
No choice.
So
No choice.
that's my experience of being on stage. You just got to do it by the time you feel nervous.
Are you still doing acting?
That's a good question. In a way, I think sometimes people reach out for me to do auditions, to join projects and stuff like that. And if the story is interesting, then sure, I'd love to be part of the project. I think it's a tricky industry, you know. It works out when it works out, if it works out, you know? And so, yeah, I sort of feel like I've also been pulled in another direction, which I really want to honor and which is really, it's fulfilling me in a really different and deep way.
Now, before we talk about that direction, from what I read, in 2012, when you were asked about the movie industry in Rwanda, your comment was it was growing and you were very enthusiastic about it. What would be your comment now to the movie industry if you still follow it?
To the movie industry.
Yeah, here in Rwanda.
I think it definitely has grown. Maybe not as fast as people in the industry would have wanted it to by now. But I don't think that's unique to us. I think that's everybody. I'm seeing a lot of international collaborations, which I find really encouraging and empowering. And yeah, I think it's true. I think my prediction was true. There's a lot of Rwandans seeing a lot of success.
So now let's just say, can we say now that you're trying to move away from the acting career and finding other purpose in life?
I think I was, but I think acting follows me everywhere I go, actually. I think if I'm allowed to talk about the sober friendly circle now.
Please.
Am I allowed?
Please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think even in my circles, I've started integrating activities that are very drama-based, play-based, a lot of theater techniques. It wasn't on purpose. It kind of just happened. I thought it would be more just about having conversations. But I saw people sort of respond to smaller exercises. I've made them bigger and have had an even better response. So you can see when something is a part of you, no matter which way you pursue it, it's always going to be there.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned about the sober friendly circle, Now, if you could take us to the story of how you started. Yes, I know a little bit about the story because we have talked about it before. But please take us there. Like, what was that moment that you felt like this is something I should do?
So
if you can get close to the microphone.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, okay.
See, theater kids aren't used to mics.
I know.
So I quit drinking, right? And then I found that I do not have a life outside of drinking. So I started going around Kigali looking for sober-friendly spaces to sort of figure out how I can rebuild a social life for myself, you know, an enjoyable experience outside of the house, basically. And I found it, honestly. But what was missing was people. And I remember it was like a month and a half ago, honestly. But
so
it
you
was
quit drinking a half in a month?
No.
No,
I quit drinking like more than a year and a half ago.
Interesting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But in terms of the sober-friendly circle, it was like a month or two ago when it was a Friday night and I was like in bed by myself and I was so lonely. The loneliness, like terribly lonely. And I was just like casually crying about it. And then I was like, you know what? If I'm crying by myself because I'm lonely, surely there are other people doing the same. Let me find out. So the next day, I went on TikTok and I asked people if they'd like to create a sober-friendly community. And a lot of people responded positively. I'm grateful to them. And then Bose also reached out, offering the circle as a space for us to gather. And that's basically how the Sober Friendly Circle was born.
Now, let's go back to when you were thinking about quitting your drinking. Now, what was that moment you felt like, nah, I should stop doing this? And I'm asking from a point where I know there are people who also wish for the same thing. But they start 1 week, after 2 weeks, let me take just one bottle, will be enough. And then they continue. Was it even your first trial or, you know?
No, it wasn't my first time trying. I had tried many times before. I think of this time, what made it really different was like a few weeks leading up to me quitting, it was a suspicion, you know, that maybe I'm not living up to who I could be because of this thing. And so I approached it with curiosity, like who could I be sober? You know, I wanted to know, I wanted to find out. I had a high suspicion that I could meet or even exceed the expectations that I had for myself. And I remember there was a very specific moment when I was intoxicated and I was behaving in a very toxic way, where I realized that, okay, so I drink to solve my problems, but my drinking is causing the problems that I'm trying to solve by drinking. So I had that in the moment realization, which is extremely rare. And since then, like, it just doesn't make sense to me to drink. You know, I'm very lucky I got to experience that in real time, but I can't justify it to myself anymore. And as for the people who are kind of on and off with their drinking or whatever it is, I think what helped me is just being honest with myself, and sort of humbling myself that some people can have a glass or two of wine, but I might have a glass of 2 today. Tomorrow I could have 3. And next week I could drink the bottle and I could be back on the roller coaster. Do you know what I mean?
I see.
I can't do what they do. And it's not a good feeling, you know. I feel weak because of it. And it feels unfair. And I mean, like when people who can't handle their liquor, some people would put it, when people see people like that, they meet them with judgment, like you have self-control issues. But one quote that I really, really like is that the only drink that I have to resist is the first one. You know?
Yeah.
People will say that just have one or two, don't drink too much. That's not how my mind works, okay? My mind works that I can say no to the first one, you know? And I can say no to all the other first ones. That's the best I can do for you, you know? So yeah, it's just sometimes you need to know your weaknesses, you need to know your limitations, become friendly with them, accept them in order to be who you could be.
Yeah, I think the realization that it was stopping you from being who you thought you could really be, and you asked your question, who would I be without drinking? That was critical. And now you spoke about when the society see people like that, they approach them with judgment, yeah? Which brings me to the sober-friendly circle. And then on how you share your story, yeah? Now, how do you share your story in a way that it doesn't come back to you and break you down? Because through sharing, you receive judgments, you receive very negative, feedback. And some people would go way far and be like, you are here because it's because of the past because of drinking. So this is not where you should be. Now, how do you tell your story in a way that you are also able to maintain your mental well-being?
I think that's the power of safe spaces, right? Safe spaces attract safe people.
That's a good one.
Yeah, people who come to the sober-friendly circle or even the circle Kigali in general, we're all in the same boat. Okay, if you're coming to the sober-friendly circle, chances are someone has some issue, you know? So you talking about your issue, you're only going to be met with empathy and compassion because people know they also have their own, you know? I think that's the whole point of community, especially a specific community where you come together on something that is common. And also, you know what? People are going to judge you regardless. I judge people, not because I want to, but I think I'm better than them. But I think it's a human thing. And I think like we all have our conditions. We all have our flaws. But I think as much as it's the responsibility of others to receive us with grace, I think it's also like who cares at some point? Because okay, if you're judging me for having had a drinking problem, like, so what? I worked through it. I got to the other side. Even if I was still in it, you know, I'm trying to do something about it by speaking about it. You know, it's always the people who are doing nothing about their issues who judge people who are actually open and trying, you know?
True.
So
then, having said that, it brings me to a point where what have been the challenges so far through running this sober-friendly space?
Challenges. I don't know, man. It's been pretty good.
Oh, really?
Everyone's been pretty great to me. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, okay.
I think one thing I would say is that the Circle Kigali runs, well, not runs, but the Circle Kigali, the circles that are facilitated there, they survive on donations, and because we want to keep the spaces inclusive, we don't want to put a price on being able to attend them, but still trying to sustain the space, sustain yourself, and provide a high quality experience for people does require some money.
Yes.
So if you're a sponsor, holler at me. But otherwise, let me think. Challenges? Yeah, people have been really nice to me. I don't know what to say.
That's good. That's good. Now, let's talk about now. When I wrote the article about sober friendly, I wrote an article about sober friendly, by the way, in the New Times. So I received so many comments. Yeah, minding you, that was one of the most read articles. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
We're famous.
Yeah, you are. Anyways, so some of the questions I received, First, some were skeptical, some were pessimistic, some were, you know what I mean. So someone came to me and asked, so if I go in a space where there are people who are trying to be sober, but then, for example, let's talk about sexual dependency or sex addiction. So I go to the circle, someone shares their struggle, they're trying to also overcome that dependency. But when they're telling their story, I hear they have done something I haven't done, And to me, yes, I want to recover, but, I realize there is an end I haven't really stretched, So at some point, I feel like I should do it because someone else has done it, So I received a lot of those comments. Some were like, I go there, I thought my case was worse. But when I get there, I figure out, come on, man, I'm doing better. And maybe I live there with curiosity to try other things that someone who's battling the same thing has explored, Mind you, it didn't come from people who attended the spaces. Those are, some random questions and feedback I got when I wrote the story. How would you address that?
Well, I think being concerned about being triggered is a real thing, right? First of all, the type of people who come to my circle, yes, there are many people who are dealing with many different dependencies. Some have recovered or are in recovery. Some are still sort of in the thick of it. Some really just want to connect with people, and like the space and like the exercises and like the vibe. So there's so many different people at different stages I feel like it's just the same as hanging out with any other random group of people. In any group of friends, there are people who are dealing with serious issues. For some people, it's a bit lighter. Some people are actually easy breezy, nothing's going on, And I think that's what makes the space so normalizing, And to address those specific people who are saying those things, I think you have to be ready to want to come to a space like this. You have to have reached your limit, where enough is enough, and you want to change.
So that means you have to know your limit.
No, I think it's for people who are done now, and people who aren't curious about how far they can take whatever they're doing anymore.
True.
If you're still curious about certain things, if you don't really see your dependency as a burden, and you're still curious about certain aspects of it, then maybe you're not ready for the sober friendly circle. Maybe that's not what you really want. Maybe you don't really want to give it up. And you know what? Maybe you don't even have to, right? But this is a space for people who have decided they have to.
They have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess what you said about being worried about the trigger, that's critical, because in my article, I spoke with someone who recovered from heroin addiction. And he was telling me, man, there is nothing like a sober-free life, because every day you have to wake up and remind yourself that you don't have to go back there. Like, remind yourself of the fight you're trying to fight and just being persistent. And he also mentioned something that it's really challenging to try to recover and fight dependency. And finally, after finally making it, you come back in the same community that hasn't changed at all, you know. So I think that's why I think spaces like yours are really important to, you know, to help people dealing with that. You know, just be in a community where everyone understands, or even if they don't understand you, they are trying to, you know, they are willing to share ideas, no judgment, you know. It's really inspiring. Now, before we go any further with anything else, I want you to look in the camera, tell people to join the Sober Friendly Circle. If.
Yeah, so join the Sober Friendly Circle if you're sober curious, or just seeking community to connect through conversation and fun exercises. We meet on Tuesdays from 6:30 to 9 p.m. at the Circle Kigali. See you there.
Thank you so much. So now that we have touched on the Sober Friendly Circle, we have touched on your acting career. Now, let's go somewhere else. Of course, the Sober Friendly Circle is your initiative, but you have other things you are passionate about, or some things you get involved in. I don't know. That's where we are heading. So what are those?
Listen, I'm a one-trick pony. I'm joking.
Oh.
What else? You know what I'm really interested in right now? Let me tell you. Nuclear energy in Rwanda.
Is it you I saw posting something about it?
It was probably me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I recently connected with someone on TikTok, and then ended up at a 2-day talk, and then ended up joining the NICE Club Rwanda. NICE stands for Nuclear is Clean Energy. And we meet on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. And yeah, we just learn about nuclear energy. And there's a lot of myth busting about in terms of safety and cleanliness, and basically how it will contribute to the development of Rwanda towards the vision we have of 2050.
What's your image of Kigali in the coming 10 years?
A nuclear-powered Kigali.
No, okay. So that's your image of Kigali. Like, generally, I mean, yes, nuclear-powered, but what else?
In 10 years, in what aspect?
You're not limited.
I think Kigali in 10 years...
Generally, though, like... We can speak in the aspect of leisure. We can speak in the aspect of infrastructure. You know, whichever comes to you first, really. Yeah. Because, listen, I'm going to tell you what I think. In the coming 10 years, I have a feeling, Kigali will be crowded with foreign people, like super crowded. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but... That's my prediction.
In terms of that, I mean, I do see that there's a lot more foreigners in Kigali. It's become quite cosmopolitan, melting pot, different people from different places and cultures. And I think it's a really beautiful thing that people from all around the world want to call Kigali their home. I do want to, personally, I want to see more of it. I think in terms of development, we rely on a lot of foreign investment in order to develop. And a lot of people are going to come with their investment.
And a lot of employment to be made.
Exactly. So I think a smart thing to do would be to welcome them.
Yes. Now, maybe as we are wrapping up, this is a round of curiosity questions. You know? What would you tell to the 5-year-old Tsatsi?
We never stopped playing games.
Okay.
Now we force other people to play them too. Yeah.
So it has been your lifestyle playing games.
Listen, love it.
Okay.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
What's your favorite game?
I like to make up games.
You do?
For people to, like in workshop theater. Workshop theater is basically when a group of people come together and everybody writes and everybody acts and everybody directs. And so the way that you sort of generate the content is through improvisation. But you need to structure the improvisation, right? In order to come up with the type of content you want. Yeah. So you create a game. Yeah. So I love creating games like that. This. No, for real. It's my favorite thing to do. Yeah. I think the best game I've come up with so far at the Sober Friendly Circle is, so I put people into groups and then I told them to come up with a fictional person. They decided on who that person was, their job, their lifestyle, and give them like 2 versions of life. So the first version, they have a dependency or addiction, and then you write that day in the life. And then in the second version, they're free of that dependency or addiction, and instead it's like built on discipline. And then you write that version of life. And then each group nominated someone to present it to each other. And it was so amazing to see like this person, they created the 2 very different lives they could live if they chose or were able to choose discipline over their dependency. And just the imagination and how people, they didn't just create characters, they defended their characters against each other. Or and they even got inspiration from their own fictional characters that they created. They started wanting to be like their fictional character or someone else's fictional character. And so it really just shows the power of imagination, and that this thing of creating characters and stories is actually really powerful and impactful for transforming lives.
I remember when we last met at Stella's book launch.
Yes.
When you mentioned creating imaginary characters, I remember she gave the kids an assignment, an exercise or a game, I don't know, to draw their fictional character. And then a kid would randomly stand up and say, my character is a robot, maybe they can fly, stuff like those. Yeah. So now that's what you tell to your younger self. But now, what would be the advice you would give to your younger self?
Man, it's kind of hard to say.
Or let's just not say advice. Let's say you're sitting with her, you're giving her a story of your life, maybe. And then you're telling her this one, the most shocking moment experience in your life. You'd be like, but then you're telling to her in a sense that I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to get you ready. What would you tell her? And of course, that's only if you would like to share such experience.
Just like it's all happening for a reason. I think I still deal with a lot of shame. It's gotten better, but I still deal with a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, heavy regrets, especially about self-sabotage throughout my 20s, maybe even some of my teens, things like that. But I think I can't hate who I was if I'm going to love who I am now, because I had to go through all of that to get here. And the only way to be able to truly empathize and hold space and create a safe space for people like I do now, I had to experience things firsthand. And so nothing can prepare you.
Do you ever feel like,
yeah, go ahead.
Do you ever feel like it has slowed you down in a way?
Incredibly so. I mean, when I talk about thinking about who I could be sober, it was like, I think, was I already 29? I think, yeah, I was 29 already. And like, I had made no movement in my life. Like, I might as well have been a child. Like, I had nothing going for me in career, in relationships, just in terms of the quality of person I was. Like, I might have well have been like 15, you know? And I mean, that's what happens if you have some sort of dependence or addiction or a problem. Like I like to soften, sugarcoat it by calling it a problem. It stunts you. It stunts your growth and your development. I remember like the first year being sober, I literally felt like I grew 10 years in 1 year. Like almost like every month I matured.
That's a huge growth.
By a year, because I just like was allowing my prefrontal cortex to actually prefrontal cortex, And so I went through a period where I was making the same old mistakes, but I was aware of it and I couldn't stop myself.
Yeah.
Because like it's almost like you're ahead of your own development, like you have the clarity but not the maturity yet. It's like you're physiologically or emotionally, you need to catch up with your brain somehow. So yeah, I do feel like I was, and I still kind of do feel behind. I think I'm catching up, I'm being very intentional about it. In terms of developing myself in every aspect of life. But yeah.
Now, that was deep. That was deep. But now, how much of influence does family or relationship have on, or did it have on your process of trying to heal or recover? Or so much to say on even, I don't know, how do I say it? Encouraging your dependence, if that's a way to put it. How much, like, what was the role before and after, or maybe even during the process?
I think who you surround yourself with, it's critical. Sometimes we don't always have a choice, but when you have a choice, choose wisely. And I think it comes down to like, okay, in terms of before, I think from the people closest to me, it was a mixture of high criticism and acting like everything is okay.
When it
wasn't. And I think on that, I mean, like, both are two extremes. Like, criticism without any compassion to actually be curious about what is wrong and help a person just creates shame, which makes them want to do what they're doing more. And then acting like everything is okay and it's no big deal and everyone has a bad day and stuff like that too much is also, what is the word where you're like encouraging someone's dependency? I forget it. Like, that doesn't help either. basically, that's keeping them stuck. And I also noticed that, like, if there's a behavior that I'm doing that is not good for me, but someone like accepts it and sort of soothes me, it's like that person isn't your friend. And just because they think that that's the best you can do and that's the best you can be, like, look at where their standards are for you, you know, by saying that it's okay for you to be that way. Meanwhile, they're not that way, you know, they have higher standards for themselves. During
that's hypocrisy.
During, I would say, I'm very lucky. The people around me did support me a lot, in terms of affirmation and telling me how great I'm doing. I tried to act like people drinking around me didn't bother me for a while. Try to be cool and go dancing all night anyway and stuff.
In Kigali?
Yeah, in Kigali.
How long have you been in Kigali?
Oh, so long.
Really?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think what I would say is that as much as you encourage with words, like, encourage with actions. Like, I don't mind people drinking around me, but getting intoxicated around me can just be very triggering. So, like, just help your person out. Be one less trigger. Be one less time they have to say no. You know, like your heroin survivor was talking about. You know, don't be one more reason they have to say no. Be one less reason. And even now, I have lost. Not so much that I've lost a lot of people, but the relationship has had to shift. And some people I'm not as close to. Yeah, and I think that's just part of life. I feel like I'm a very different person, even besides the sobriety. So I think it is what it is.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, as we are closing off, what would be your advice to people or families that have someone trying to recover a certain addiction or dependency? How best should they support them?
Let's talk to the camera. Oh man, I would say, as I was saying before, support people with action and not just words. So if someone is trying to recover from drinking, try to limit your drinking around them. Same with smoking, or anything that they're facing. Do it in action. I think they'll really appreciate that. And be patient. Try to listen and not judge. And, one thing that was really powerful for me is that when I became a different person, or when I was even in the process of becoming, people believed in the new me. And they didn't hold the old me against me. They didn't try to force me into maintaining who I was. And I think that takes a lot of forgiveness and a lot of trust and just a lot of belief. So even if this is the 100th time they're trying to quit, believe them.
Thank you. You said, I know you did your primary at Green Hills.
No, I did some high school.
High school at Green Hills?
Yeah.
IB, yeah?
Yeah.
IB, cool. And then you went to South Africa for your education.
Yeah, I tried IB at Green Hills, failed miserably. Then...
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, I hear it's the hardest one anyway.
And then went to South Africa to redo my final year. Got all A's. So we bounced back. We fall, but we bounced back. And then I went to university in South Africa.
University of Cape Town, is it?
Yes.
And you came back to Kigali when?
2018.
And why do you not speak Kinyarwanda?
Well, I didn't grow up speaking Kinyarwanda. My mother is Sutu, and my dad is Rwandan. My sister
Is,
Lesotho.
Lesotho. Oh.
My sister and I grew up in South Africa.
You mean Star Gazin?
Yes.
My
We
friend.
grew up in South Africa. We didn't have any Rwandan community
Around.
My parents had to teach us English early on in order to get us to succeed in the school system.
True.
And I find it weird when people try to give me a hard time about not speaking Kinyarwanda because I was born in 1994 and I think it's understandable, why during that time and even the years
Later.
leading up, why a lot of Rwandans couldn't be in Rwanda,
Indeed.
and learn the language and the culture.
True.
My dad, his home is in Uganda. He's a Munyarwanda of Uganda. He was born in 59. That's another significant year.
True.
Many Rwandans have been in exile for a long time. This is the first time we actually get to live in Rwanda. So I think it makes a lot of sense why many of us don't speak Kinyarwanda. And one thing I'd like to encourage people to do is instead of shaming people for not speaking Kinyarwanda, try to be understanding of their experience and help them learn.
True. True. Because I was reading about it. Okay. I didn't know it was high school you did at Green Hills. I thought it was your entire primary.
No, just a couple of years.
I didn't even know
maybe
you were
even
here.
A year and a half in high school.
I didn't even know you were here. That's why I asked how long have you been in Rwanda, because I felt I don't remember the first time I met you though, because I don't think it's at Stella's book launch. I think we had met before, but I just don't know where. Yeah, and you look you look more like your sister.
Yeah.
And I can never forget that I had seen you before. All right. Thank you so much, Tsatsi.
All right,
for your time, for your good conversation, for sharing your experiences, for being vulnerable in a way. And, I know this is the same thing I told Bose when I was on a podcast with her. I told her, things you're trying to do, you're really trying to break a very huge bubble. And you should understand that what you're trying to do is just challenging the normal, It's challenging the normal of at least Rwandan people. Because she mentioned something that we are really, really conserved, and sometimes that's a disadvantage for someone trying to heal, at least, because you need to get out there. You need to talk about your experience. You need to share your best moment. You need to share your most vulnerable moment, So thank you for the space. Yeah,
You're
I
welcome.
haven't really had an opportunity to attend one, but maybe next Tuesday. I'll be there.
Tuesday.
Maybe next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So the Sober Friendly Circle happens every Tuesday, 6:30.
To 9 p.m.
To 9 p.m. at the Circle Kigali.
Yes.
Kimihurura, iruhande rw'akagari ka Kamutwa, no? Yeah. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate. If you have the last message you'd like to deliver to the audience, please, this is your time to shine. I told Vose it was time for her to shine with her poetry. She was like, I share my poetry only when, so please.
What do I say that I haven't said?
I don't know.
Anyway, as I was saying, my message is recovery in community, and I had to do it alone, and it was painful, It was isolating, it was lonely, it was difficult, and I just want to make the experience easier for other people. So join us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be on alert for more upcoming episodes of the Inbox Podcast. Like I mentioned, we talk about mental health, we talk about lifestyle, we talk about some other fun stuffs, and we bring people who are doing something in the community like Tsatsi. So thank you so much for tuning in. Till next time, ciao ciao.